Hi, in today's video I'm going to give some tips to the newly qualified beauty therapists out there. The first tip that I'm going to start with is to do with nails, and particularly pedicures. If you have a client who has slightly dark toenails, certain bruised toenails that they want covered, but they choose a colour that's fairly light and quite sheer, definitely let them know that it's not going to cover properly, and show them an option of a more pigmented colour that can still be quite light but more of a creamy pigmented gel polish or a normal polish that's going to be a lot more better at covering the bruise or the darkened nail. There have been several times within my career where they still go for the lighter option even though I've warned them that it's not going to cover properly, and then I do 2 coats of colour, they're not happy, and I've had to do another 2 coats of colour to cover it. Even though it looked a little bit more better with 4 coats of colour, it takes up a lot more time to get a result that the client is still not 100% happy because it's not 100% covered. But the fact that you communicated with your client and you told them what is going to happen, and it did, they won't be making that mistake again. The next tip I have is for those of you who don't really like using nail clippers. I really struggled getting under the nail, and I used to cut more off than I wanted to. Yeah, I just always found them really awkward to use. And then one day I came across a YouTube channel, I'm going to link it down below because that channel saved my life pretty much. She does videos of pedicures. I think it's really satisfying to watch. I like seeing the before and after, and you like sort of see the process of the feet going from quite bad to really, really good. It's not for everybody, but I personally find it really satisfying. I'll link her channel down below, but I noticed that she was using cuticle nippers to trim down the toenails. After I saw her video, I thought I'm definitely going to try this. So I grabbed an old pair of cuticle nippers that weren't as sharp as they used to be, and I turned that into my nail clippers basically. The only thing is, when you're cutting with cuticle nippers, the toenail that you're cutting, bits of it can fly everywhere. Apart from that, I get the exact length I want, the shape I want. I personally find it a lot easier. So if you struggle with nail clippers, try using cuticle nippers. My next tip is leading on from my last one. If there is a lot of length that you need to cut off, when I was a newly qualified beauty therapist and I didn't like using nail clippers and I didn't know about the whole cuticle nipper tip, I used to file the majority of the length off. I just used a nail file. It was really time consuming. There was dust everywhere. There was a lot of nail that would build up, a lot of nail and dust that would build up underneath the nail, so I would then have to clean underneath, bring out this part of the nail that was still sort of attached, and then buff that to the side or sort of upwards to get it off. There was just a lot of issues. So we're supposed to do this anyway, but I highly recommend that you cut to the length that the client wants, you cut to the shape that the client wants, and then you just use the nail file to smooth out the edges. If the client doesn't want a lot of length off, then I just use the nail file. But yeah, if they definitely want a lot of length cut down, cut the majority of it off to save time. There's something else that I didn't know for like a good 3 years into my career, which is so bad. When I used to whip out a brand new nail file, not this one, a brand new nail file, and I used to go to file a client's nail really fast, I would cut their skin. It's like a paper cut. I used to feel so bad. I couldn't understand what I could possibly do with a brand new nail file. And the thing is, you grab another nail file, it could be a new one as well, or it could be an old one. I just have a buffer just to demonstrate, but you basically smooth out all of the edges so that it's not sharp, and then that way it won't cut your client. And yeah, that is my tip. My final tip when it comes to nails, and I've done this in certain videos in my manicure videos that I've done, when you're doing a gel polish manicure and the client has really short nails and you're struggling to cap the free edge because they're so short and you're getting gel polish all over the skin, there's a lot of cleaning up to do, I recommend that you reverse the brush and you push the product to the tip of the nail, and it will slightly overflow, and then that will create the cap, and then you smooth it out evenly. It's a really good tip to use, especially if a client bites their nails and they're really short. You can use this reversing brush tip. My next tip is to do with facials. So when I was being trained, we were taught to turn the facial steamer on before you start so that it can start to heat up. You do your double cleanse, you exfoliate, you take it off, and then you put your steamer on. But if the steamer is ready, don't wait until you're finished doing the rest of the routine. You can add the facial steamer within the cleansing section and within the exfoliating section. It actually works really well with steam, and you get to steam the client's face for a little bit longer, which is going to be a lot easier when it comes to extracting. Do be careful with which exfoliator you're using though, because there are some exfoliators out there where they recommend that you don't add steam, but the majority of the time you can definitely add your steamer as soon as it's ready. My next tip is a waxing tip, and I'm actually going to grab a pen and paper to draw out and demonstrate what I'm talking about. Okay, so this is a leg, this is the thigh, this is where the knee is. A lot of newly qualified beauty therapists end up bruising the thigh area because they haven't stretched the skin properly, and my tip is to actually split the thigh in half. Rather than doing one long strip like that where you don't even have enough space to stretch the skin and end up bruising the client, apply the strip onto the bottom half, the wax, sorry. So apply the wax. Obviously the hair in this area tends to grow downwards, but pay attention to that. Apply the wax in a downwards motion here if the hair is growing in this direction. Then you have all of this space here to stretch so that you're not going to bruise this area. And then once you've taken off the hair on this section, you can then apply it at the top here. And then you've got all of this space to stretch downwards so that you don't end up bruising the top section. So yeah, I recommend that you really split the thigh in half and you're applying a smaller section of wax so that you're able to stretch, and that way you won't bruise your client. I hope that diagram was helpful. I wish that I had a model to demonstrate it on. Maybe in the future I'll be able to find a model to do sort of demos. My next tip when it comes to waxing is to really play around with the types of positions you can get your client to lie in. That's going to make it easier for you and a lot more comfortable for the client, and just a better result as well. One position that I'm going to give you as a huge tip, I wish I had known this position a lot sooner. If I'm doing a bikini wax and I've just finished doing the front and I need to do the back, get the client, this does depend on the client's body type, but get the client to bring their knees together and up to their stomach, get them to hold their knees, and then that way, again depending on the person's body type, you are able to see everything and it's stretched out and it's exposed. And when it comes to hot wax, you put one on one side, one on the other side, you wait for it to dry, and then you take it off and it's perfect. The position that I normally get my clients to lie in is they lie on their stomach and then they bring their arms back and then stretch from each side. And clients do find this position a little bit awkward. I've never tried the position where they go on all fours personally. I've never tried it, so I can't really tell you what clients think of that position, but they definitely, from the feedback I got, they definitely prefer the position where they're holding their knees up. Especially when you're waiting for hot wax to dry, it's quite awkward and a little bit uncomfortable when they're holding each side of their butt cheek while they're waiting for the hot wax to dry. So that is a position that I could give you as a tip to try out. It's also like a 2-in-1 benefit because it's like a yoga position, so they get a good stretch and they get the hair removed. The next tip I'm going to give you is something that does depend on which salon you work at, but I was working at this one salon, just to give you a little background story. In this particular salon we would apply the oil, do the massage, and then that's it. We wouldn't actually use heated mitts to cleanse the feet, but it would make the client and you as the beauty therapist more comfortable when it comes to massaging the feet if they are cleansed with heated mitts that has some sort of essence on it, just to freshen it up and give it a nice cleanse. It just makes the whole massage more relaxing. They don't need to think of anything else, and I And I recommend that you cleanse after, because if there is a lot of oil on the feet and they go to get up when the massage is over to get redressed, they could possibly slip. They could also get a lot of oil on the floor, which is difficult to mop up. It takes more time to really mop that oil out of the floor. And then my final tip is just a general one, and it's not to spend so much time. I'm guilty of this still to this day, and I feel like I've gotten worse. Don't spend so much time trying to make the treatment absolutely 100% perfect, because there are some occasions where the client just needs to come in for that treatment more regularly. It's not always your work. After lockdown, people haven't had a facial for like a year. They have a lot of blackheads that are quite deep in the skin. So I have recommended all of my clients to come in for facials a lot more often to get that end sort of good result. I mean, we recommend facials once a month anyway, but especially after that long break of not having facials that often, if they want their skin to look brighter and clearer and that deep cleanse, they need to come in more often, because we cannot take out absolutely everything in an hour. Because in that hour we need to cleanse, exfoliate, do the steam and extractions, do a massage, do the face mask. There's a lot that goes into it, so it's not going to be a perfect end result. If you're like me and you see pictures of manicures and pedicures on Instagram that are perfect and you're wondering why you can't achieve that, it's not always your work. That client could be getting treatments done regularly. They could be using cuticle oil all the time, where it makes it a lot easier because their skin is hydrated. Sometimes the pictures that you see online, an e-file has been used to give it that sort of finish, whereas where I work, I mean, I don't think I've worked in any salon that used an e-file. So if you don't work in that sort of salon as well, keep that in mind, because it's a different sort of finish that you're able to get with an e-file. Okay, that is the end of the video. That's it from me. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.